Yes. So, first things first, Greta, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good.
So, before we get into the album Vessel, I'd like to jump back to the beginning quickly. And do you remember when you kind of figured out that music was more to you than to most people?
Oh, I don't know if it's more to me than most people. I think I just use it in a different way than a lot of people do, which is like I make music all the time just like as a way to keep talking to myself.
Okay.
And like sometimes I don't know how I feel until I'm making a song about it, and then I can understand it. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know when I figured that out. It's constantly unfolding to me, and the way I feel about it is always changing.
Did you start writing early on then?
I guess I was like 10 or 11 when I wrote my first song.
Okay.
But I didn't start writing like a lot until I was maybe 16, and I was writing like every day. And I just realized one day like, oh, I've been writing a song every day, or 10 songs in a day, or just going really crazy, just fixating on writing songs. And then it kind of stuck in my life from there.
Do you remember what you started writing about? What the first couple of the songs were?
Yeah. Well, when I was like 10 and I wrote my first song, it was before I didn't really play guitar yet. So it was this band where I played drums and my friend Eliza played guitar, and our first song was called Hell in a Handbasket, and it was about all the reasons why I was going to go to hell. And I was just like naming. I stole the format of it from this Jeffrey Lewis song called Back When I Was 4, and I just like went through all the ages, like starting with when I was little and then ending with me being like 100 and talking about all the bad things I do at every age and how I'm gonna go to hell.
This is quite heavy for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, I mean it was definitely like, it was fun. It was trying to be funny also. It wasn't like it wasn't taking itself too seriously. Right. But it was yeah, it was cute.
With that song, was that then where you figured out kind of that effect writing music and performing it had on you?
Not really. I think that it changed a lot from there. Like when I first wrote that, I remember I was really nervous to even show it to my bandmate, and I never wanted to play a show ever, and I only wanted to like I all the first recordings even that I made, I was like whisper singing. I didn't want anyone in the house to hear that I was making music, and I was very like embarrassed by it. So it was really just like a thing with my best friend, and I was like comfortable, working on it with her, but I didn't really, it didn't feel like I was gonna pursue it at all.
Okay.
And then when I got a little bit older and started writing songs, same thing, I was really shy and I didn't want to perform, I didn't want to show it to anyone, and I wanted to have like a fake character who was making the songs, which is why I had like all these different names.
How come? Not just your name?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just wanted to like, I didn't want it to be me. I wanted it to be like someone cooler than me who was making it. So I liked the idea of like, I felt like I was more comfortable sharing it with people if it was not coming from me. Like being like, oh, I found this musician. It's not me. It's a different name. And getting to show it to my friends that way. Even though it was obviously me. But yeah, so I just started trying to find like a different name and recording stuff. And then I played drums in other bands, but I never was trying to play my own show. And then it just kind of like happened that someone asked me to play, like, cause they'd heard a song of mine, and I was like, I guess I could play a show, and I tried it, and it was really scary, and it was really hard. But then I was like, I kind of want to try it again. And I kept wanting to try it. Right. And then I just made a band from there. Okay. And I think once I started having bandmates playing with me, it made performing much more interesting to me and much more, I felt a little bit more protected on stage.
Mm-hmm. Where was the turning point then in terms of being able to show your songs to other people?
I think one of the first people I shared my songs with was my mom, and she was really supportive and really like excited about them, and like she's still like that and listens to all of them a lot and talks to me about them and stuff. But I remember there was a time where she was like trying to encourage me to make my voice more audible in the recordings because you couldn't hear what I was saying. You could hardly hear that there were words. And so she was like, what if you put no effects on your voice, and what if you just kept it really clean so people can hear, so I can hear what the words are. And then so I was like, so I decided, like, she was like producing the next song, like, so I was going to do it that way, and it was produced by my mom, meaning that she just told me to make my vocals clearer. And then from there, I was like, oh, that's actually, I think I had a moment where I was like, I realized that I didn't have to hide behind layers of too many sounds, and I was like fine with singing, I guess. I think I've had a lot of different relationships to singing, and it's always been kind of hard, and I've always had a hard time singing, and I always get off stage and I think I did a bad job singing, and only like after years of touring have I felt like I've actually gotten a little bit better at it, and that I have more control, a little bit more control over.
Well, if we fast forward a little bit then, because Next Thing, your second album, was quite well received. So
Thanks.
does that help? Does that kind of the feedback that you get from people enjoying the music, does that help with the confidence?
Yeah, totally. I think the main confidence thing that is helped by having an audience is feeling like I belong on stage and feeling like I'm allowed to be on stage. Like I always feel like I was at first always apologizing for being on stage and being like, sorry, like our set's almost over, only a few more songs, like kind of apologizing for being there. And then once I had people who like my music who were paying to come see us play and like listening to the albums and responding and wearing our t-shirts to our shows and stuff, it was like, oh, I'm supposed to play. And now I'm kind of, I'm addicted to having like a purpose for being at a show, and now when I like go to a show for fun, to see a friend's band, let's say, I'm always like wandering around kind of aimlessly, like, what do I do with myself? Like, I don't have any reason that I need to be here, and so I need like, I'll often ask if I can do their merch or something just to feel like I have a job, because I think having an audience has really helped me just feel like, oh, I'm supposed to go on stage, and that confidence is very helpful for me.
What was it like then? Because you mentioned kind of the development of the band and gathering people around you to play with. What was it like then, those maybe first year or a year and a half, kind of developing what you want and your direction, where you want to go? How did you experience that initial year?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to remember. I guess it started with my first bandmate was the person I was dating at the time, was like, I'll play drums for you. And so I was like, okay, now I have a band. And then from there, it was like his brother kind of offered, like, I'll play bass. Like, I want to learn to play bass. And so it was all these people who were like playing instruments that they weren't well versed in. And so we just like made it into a band, and then it started growing into, I guess I just wanted to, I say yes to everything. It's like, that was kind of my problem, is I would just say yes all the time, and anybody who had a show, I'd be like, oh, I'll play. Okay. And suddenly we played maybe 10 shows in 2 months in New York. Like, we just would play on everyone's show because it was just fun, and I had just like a lot of friends who made music, and yeah, and then I guess I thought it would be fun to just go on tour. I was like, what if we booked a tour? So I started just emailing strangers in random towns, finding people's music and just being like, hey, you make music in Baltimore, like, can we come there and can we play with you? Like in a couple months from now. And then I slowly like booked a couple tours and then that was when I was like, oh, I just wanted to try it. I think the main way that Frankie Cosmos has like grown and changed is just kind of being curious and wanting to try new things. And so I'm always just like, sure, I'll try that, or okay. I don't know. So it's kind of just, suddenly I'm trying bigger and bigger things. Yeah.
Well, I find it interesting because, well, you mentioned kind of being a bit self-conscious about your singing, but then there's also the DIY attitude and the drive. So how do you reconcile those two? What kind of was the passion? What was the drive?
I mean, I guess I still haven't figured out like why, or if I like the idea of like a career in this like thing that's my hobby, because it's kind of, it changes the way that you feel about it a little bit and makes it a little bit different. But I don't know yet how I feel about it. But the drive for me like is just, I just love writing songs, and that's like the main thing that I love doing, and everything else is just kind of like in support of that. So I think it's like interesting to bring in other people's ideas and play together. And I think, and then I think it becomes even more interesting when there's people in a room that are reacting to it and sharing like energy in it. And so that stuff I think exists in DIY, and it exists in, you know, for us it's like we have like a team now of people who help us like press records and promote stuff, and it's like all these other jobs now. And I have a booking agent who books our tours, and so there is still a lot of DIY aspects of Frankie Cosmos. Like we still, I've used the same equipment that I've always used. I've never like tried to kind of change my guitar or anything. I think if it's not broke, don't fix it, attitude about that stuff. But I also, my bandmate designs all of our merch, and we all just like sell the merch ourselves at the shows, and I do all the tour managing, and my bandmates do all the driving, and there's not a lot of, on tour it's like there's not a lot of extra help in terms of that. So it's kind of, it still feels very DIY. As it's as DIY as it can be with the amount of people that we need to serve, which is like, we can't physically, Lauren and I, my bandmate, can't physically make all the shirts if we're selling this many shirts. So it's like, we used to do that, and now it's like, we need to pay someone else to make the shirts. And so, so it's grown, but within reason. It's not, nothing feels like out of my control yet, which I really like, being the manager and being like kind of keeping an eye on everything, so that it doesn't feel like there are decisions being made for me about my art, because that would kind of defeat the purpose.
Right, fair enough. Because I was going to ask if that's because of creative control and kind of,
Yeah, I'm definitely a creative control freak.
In terms of, if we go into the songwriting and then with an eye on Vessel, then where did you start? Was there, because like I said, I think Next Thing and Even Entropy was quite well received. So is that in the back of your mind when you start writing again?
I think it's definitely scary to keep making music once you know people are going to hear it. And I felt that way with Next Thing. Next Thing was the first album that I made like thinking, oh, people are going to actually hear it. Because with Entropy, I didn't think that at all. And so it's hard to hold on to, it's an effort to hold on to the like freeness of the writing and the performing and stuff. But I think I just am really convinced that I wouldn't want to be a successful musician if it meant that I had to change the way that I do it. And like, I guess I also think that people respond to Frankie Cosmos because it's very purely me, and it's not trying to be like profitable. I'm not like crafting music to go on the radio or something. So I think that I just have myself, I'm always like, I'm very grateful for like where we are, but I'm not expecting it. And I don't expect for any album to compare to any of the other ones. I don't expect that the tours are gonna necessarily keep growing. Like maybe we've reached all the people we're gonna reach. Like maybe it's not gonna reach more people. And I don't, I'm trying not to get too like spoiled by anything. I just like, I feel like I'm living in the moment. Because I don't, you never know like if your music's just gonna be like a quick trend, a passing trend. And I just need to, for my own sanity, need to just be making it only for myself so that I'm not worried about that stuff.